People see us everywhere. They think you really care. But myself I can't deceive. I know it's only make-believe.
Hello, and welcome back once again to your childhood fort made entirely out of garbage that is any podcast that covers the true mound of garbage that is ABC's The Bachelor. I am your author, Max Churchwell.
And I'm your analyzer, Kinsey Brenton.
And because I did not say it before, this is Will You Accept This Prose? And the only reason I didn't say it is because I am still recovering from the psychosexual journey that is the Fantasy Suite episode of The Bachelor.
It's the sex episode, guys.
It's the sex episode. Finally. Finally, Disney. To be fair, at that time it wasn't Disney. So finally, ABC.
Well, when did Disney buy ABC? I feel like it was pretty early.
Was it in 2009, though? Did they own it in 2009?
I mean, I would watch Disney Channel shows on ABC Kids on Saturday mornings.
The true point of it is that some family programming network or another.
It was ABC Family, whether or not Disney owned it or not.
Family. They are really just sexing it up, giving us some quality thick content. And boy, I'm so excited to talk about it. But what we have to talk about first is the fact that just like last week, there is a little recap of the last episode, and then there is a terrifically long recap of everything that has happened with the 3 remaining contestants.
Yes, so in the first recap, we get just a reminder what happened last episode where they talk about each of the women's dates.
The hometown dates.
The hometown dates, yes. And the only note I really made was that Chris Harrison, specifically in Naomi's little portion in this episode, said, and Naomi fell in love when she was the one who went home.
Yeah. It's kind of like someone only truly fell in love when they've been sent home. That's when it's clear that they were in love. They didn't have to say it. They went home. So we know.
So we know that they were in love.
But then we get this whole teaser, which is, I mean, it's not the same as... Well, no, I'm getting the teaser confused with the montage. This is a teaser for their, this big episode in New Zealand and what all they're going to sort of either what the dates will include as the activity or what they will include as the, serious conversation. And so the first thing that kind of comes up is that Jillian is looking for a best friend.
Yeah, best friend.
Which is fair. I mean,
that's what you want in a significant other.
Yeah, and especially one that after knowing them 6 goddamn weeks, you're going to marry them. I think it would be nice to know that they're your best friend.
Yeah, for sure. So that's what we get with Jillian's. Molly, she takes a leap of faith, is what Chris Harrison says.
Which just means it's going to be a bungee jumping date.
Yeah, which
there's frequently a bungee jumping date.
They do jump off of a bridge, bungee jumping, and then her little serious conversation snippet we see is that she's saying that she's had her walls up.
Another one of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so many walls.
Everyone's got walls.
Tear them down, folks.
Tear down all the walls.
But then we get Melissa's, which doesn't really make sense.
This one is very weird to me. So, Chris Harrison's narration is, can Jason save their relationship?
Yeah, I mean, because here's the thing. If you'll remember from last week, the only sort of, big issue in their relationship at this point, because, I mean, Melissa's been the girl next door, the perfect match this whole season.
The whole time she's been is she too perfect?
Yes. And then last week with the hometowns, her family just like really fucked her over. Well, I mean, her parents were like, we're uncomfortable with this like spotlight being shown on us, which is fair. Her brother was just like, I don't know, 5 o'clock traffic.
Yeah. It's
Ugh.
Dallas, 5 o'clock traffic. We live an hour and a half away.
Yeah, man, oh man. All that traffic, it's gonna be like an hour 45 or something. God.
Yeah.
Which is super shitty. But that's been the sort of wedge that's driven between them, is Jason has not met her parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand how that would translate to Jason needs to save their relationship. If anything, wouldn't Melissa be the one needing to put in the effort?
That's what I was thinking, was if this is such a big deal that their relationship has to be saved, it would be Melissa having to save their relationship.
Mm-hmm. Because Melissa's not the one who's so fucked up about... I mean, obviously she's not happy about her family not being willing to take part and meet Jason, but like still, I don't know. Jason's not trying to save it. If anything, he's just trying to stay in it. It's up to Melissa to be like, yeah, no, dog, this is where it's at. This is what's up.
Right. And, as we're talking about Melissa's whole parent situation, we can skip ahead to the montage.
Yes.
The relationship montage.
Mm-hmm.
Where Jason questions Melissa because it says that not meeting her parents has made him wonder if Melissa is serious about this.
Which is something that kind of seems to come up a fair amount this episode, about like, oh, are they taking it seriously? But like, another thing he does, and this skips ahead a little bit, but it's more in the abstract, like, he talks a lot about how everybody's so fun, and then very quickly that sort of transforms into, are they serious about this?
Yeah. He's chosen for him the 3 most fun girls, and then questions if they can be serious too.
Yeah, instead of is Melissa too perfect, it's is everyone too fun? But the other thing we get this like somewhat nonsensical comment on Melissa in the montage, but the big nonsensical and just gross comment we get is Jason says that Melissa reminds him of both Deanna, the bachelorette whose season he was on, who he did not end up with, and his ex. Jason, why would you say those words aloud?
Yeah.
He already called... Which woman was it that he called a carbon copy of her dad? Was that Jillian? Jillian's a carbon copy of her dad. Great that that's the person you fucked in this episode, Jason. Cool that that's the person you fucked. But I don't understand why you would attribute that to someone. Like, I just can't imagine having a partner and being like, man, you just really remind me of my last girlfriend.
Yeah, and that was like his kind of reservations, I guess, about Melissa, whereas she just reminds me of Deanna and my ex. It's just, I don't know, it's weird.
I definitely did not remember him saying that in the context of that being a reservation. I just remembered him, like, pointing at... I thought it was just a statement of fact. It is 69 degrees outside, and Melissa reminds me of Deanna and my ex. That's how I remember it.
Yeah, it's just like, the only things that he can find bad with Melissa is that her parents did not want to meet him, and that she is similar to Deanna and his ex-wife.
Which, I mean, I don't know. Those, I understand how those constitute a reservation, but, like, the fact that she has been the, like, perfect match figure this whole season, and just now we're finding out, man, she reminds me of women I had terrible relationships with. She reminds me of women I had significantly failing relationships with. Dog, why did you had to know that before now?
Yeah, and I wonder, because, I mean, we know nothing about Jason's ex.
Yeah.
But we do know about Deanna, and really the only thing we know, or the only thing I know, is, one, she did the Bachelorette rap, She's the Bachelorette, and she's rapping to you poolside.
God, I always
She's
forget.
here to find true love, one man for her whole
You
life.
have to stop. You can't even just recite it. This fucking
It's just that
shitty
last
ass
time
epic
you saw
poem.
her, she was crying in a limo.
I swear to God, Kinsey, I will quit this whole fucking podcast. It's not for a class anymore. Hey, there's a fun thing, everybody. This is no longer a class project. Yay! But I swear to God, I, as the creator of this podcast, will cancel it. You can carry on like, shall you receive this fiction, your own Hydrox, your great value version of this podcast, if you really want to do the rap that bad. Next note!
Well, I was gonna say, she also just has dark hair. And she kind of, I guess, looks a little bit like Melissa. So I wonder if he's talking about personality-wise or
just appearance.
Just appearance.
I mean, Deanna does also have dark hair, but I think her facial type is different. But we can defo talk about her appearance a little later on here, because that'll become significant. Not in this episode. Don't hold your breath for it. If you're gonna hold your breath now, you're gonna have to wait 2 weeks. So please don't.
Yeah,
please just go ahead and breathe at least a few times in there.
Breathe a little bit.
You're not David Blaine, and if you're David Blaine, fucking go for it. I dare you, dog. Hold your breath until we talk about Deanna's appearance.
If you're David Blaine, please let us know. Because that'd be pretty cool if you listened to our podcast.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you, David Blaine. Also, just for the record, Chris Angel, if you're out there, please freak my mind and let me know that you listen to this podcast. You freaked my mind with your little, I'm going to do a magic trick that affects all the viewers of Mind Freak. You picked this card before the commercial break, didn't you? I did, Chris. I did pick that card. You fucking got me, dog. Listen to this podcast. Everybody tweet at Chris Angel. Like, I don't know. Fucking nobody could listen to this episode. If one person tweets at Chris Angel just to say, hey, they talked about you like a lot in this episode of a podcast about The Bachelor, just that will make my whole fucking day. All right, we've got to get on to more serious stuff. And the most serious thing we can discuss right now is the fact that when they are doing this little transition of everyone arriving in New Zealand, they show Jason just standing out on this weird rock towards the edge of a river, but he's clearly gone. Like, it had to be 20 feet out.
He's like in the middle of this river
he's
on a rock.
So far out in this river, standing on a rock, doing this whole little dramatic thing. And what's fun about it to me is that it definitely took him a hot minute to get out that far.
Oh, for sure.
And it wasn't even like a solid path. It was more of like the sort of ridges between rocks. Mm-hmm. Or, well, between rocks. Between the area of rock that came up above the water's surface.
He would have had to been doing some big steps.
Absolutely. And he was not at all in the appropriate footwear for it. He had some goddamn, I swear to God, they were flat-soled boots, and he really relied on himself to make it out there.
Yeah. I have to note, was he just like, oh man, I gotta stand on that rock?
Yeah, there's no way somebody asked him to do this. He was like, hey, you know it would be a good bit? What if I just kind of went out there? Just kind of went out there on that rock and just went about his goddamn business with it. But
y'all, it was so dramatic.
It was so fucking dramatic.
The wind was blowing. He had his hands in his pockets, just
he was wearing a goddamn peacoat. Like, that's what really, he was trying so hard. He's fucking Michael Scott going to the swing set after his roast. I hate this idiot. Man,
it's just, I want a screenshot of that moment as my laptop wallpaper.
Fucking get it, dude. I skipped back to pause on that frame because I just had to see more of it.
It was beautiful. It brought tears to my eyes. Just, you could see the emotion.
Well, in fairness,
the drama.
If it brought tears to your eyes, it's because it's so sad to think that this adult man, this human father, was like, I've got my peacoat, I've got my boots that have no traction, I'm gonna climb out on that rock.
You know, I think the tears in my eyes were just from laughing so hard at it.
That too. I mean, do you think he fell on the way back? And they
yes.
had to, like, they were like, they fucking called Jillian, whose date came first. They called her and they were like, hey, listen, we're going to have to postpone like 3 hours because a precedent has been set that Jason is wearing this outfit and it is
soaking wet.
No, it is currently not ready to be seen by the public. So, we're going to throw him in one of those big water park human drying machines and give him a little time. Oh shit, I told you what happened. Oh no.
Oh, hey, Jillian, I'm sorry the arrival's going to have to be TBD because Jason is currently in the river. We have a rope we keep throwing out to him.
He just can't get a hold of it.
Oh no. Oh god.
No,
there's a waterfall.
You know what it was? So, Jason picks Jillian up in a helicopter. He definitely just had them start revving the engines and, like, stood near it and wind dried. That's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, this date opens with a helicopter. They're going on a little helicopter tour. And they go out to some, like, little cliff, which Chris Harrison actually described in the teaser as Jason takes Jillian to the edge of the world.
Right, yeah.
But they go out there, and there's this little, like, picnic set up. And Jillian goes, oh, you brought a blanket for us. And Jason just kind of goes, yep. No, you didn't, Jason.
He did not.
No, you did not, Jason. Some poor intern had to set that up for you.
Man, imagine interning for The Bachelor. All the just situations you have to set up. They're like, hey, go put more, that bed needs more rose petals, please. More bubbles in that tub, okay?
Dear God, if anyone in the fucking world has ever interned for The Bachelor, I pity you with every fiber of my being. My heart bleeds for you.
Just being an unpaid intern.
I know, right?
And
if you weren't at least getting paid.
That.
But the next note that we have here is Jillian at one point says, like, so if you had to sum me up, if you had to call home right now and describe me, how would you describe me? And the first thing Jason says is like, the first thing I thought of was fun. And then he lets that hang for a minute.
Yeah, it's like she's like, okay, and that's what I'm getting from her face. She's just
she's waiting for more. And again, Jason describes everybody as fun. And we're going to have a lot of talk in this episode about how terrible Jason is at holding a decent goddamn conversation.
God, he is the worst conversationalist.
Just so bad at it. But later on, the next note I have is there's some hot tub tomfoolery. Because we get, like, it's got to be about 4 minutes or something of just them making out in various positions in this hot tub. And then, like, voiceover of their comments on their time together. But what's really important about this hot tub tomfoolery, this is another moment where I had to skip back because before they start making out, like, I forget what the last thing said was, but the last thing is said, and then I think they actually start to kiss.
No, she kisses him, and that's what it happens. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, they start to kiss, and then there's this music that starts, not even music, there is a note. There is a prolonged note that starts playing, and it sounds like, I've described it several times as the, like, here comes the monster music. Like, uh-oh, here comes Godzilla.
It was so ominous.
And here's the thing, it's one note, and it was kind of crescendoing, so it's just like, and it goes on 8.5 goddamn seconds.
It was so weird. I cannot get over how weird it was.
It was so weird, and it just seamlessly transitions into this, like, sort of samba-style music, which, why? Who on the fucking team thought, oh, I've got it. Let me go ahead and score this scene. You did such a bad job,
It's
dude.
the same one who chose that battle music for Naomi after she didn't get the
Yeah,
rose.
yeah, you made it sound like a fucking bomb was about to go off 5 feet behind them. You made it
Yeah.
sound like someone sabotaged the fucking hot tub. And maybe someone did, because right after they start kissing, it cuts to a different shot that's like sort of behind Jillian, and you can see in the background this producer just sort of lazily walking where the fuck he's walking towards the camera too.
Yeah.
And he's on the very right side of the screen, but he is quite visible.
Yeah, he's just lazily meandering about while Jillian and Jason are just going at it.
Mm-hmm.
This is my favorite part of this show, is finding the producers in the background. It's just so funny to me sometimes.
Yeah, it makes me think of the like when they were doing the dramatic reenactment of like the bear sighting or whatever, and the poor dude dressed all in black, like the intern for that news channel, was running around with a little cutout of a bear. That's what it makes me think of. But yeah, kind of odd for a fantasy suite. There is no like comment from Jillian in sort of the morning after. It's like the date ends with them going to the suite, which is really more of like a little sort of cabin or a condo or whatever. And then that's it. We get like, they go there, some more making out happens, and then bam, gone. And we go right into Molly's date.
Right, which it seems like none of the 3 women get like a morning after kind of comment. Mm-hmm. Which it seems like they do every time for these past ones.
Yeah, I was gonna say, from what we've seen, which in fairness, like, this is certainly the oldest season that we've seen, because there's like limited availability. Yeah, no, it's really odd that they just sort of end with like, and yeah, they made it to the bed. Right. Anyway, here's the next woman, the next day.
Which, yeah, is it the next day?
I feel like it's gotta be the next day, which is why I feel like I feel like Jason is just full-time, like, drinking water, drinking some Gatorade, like, trying to get fucking ready. And poor, like, by the time he gets, I've already said this is Molly's date, by the time he gets to poor Melissa on that 3rd day, like, he is not at his peak.
No.
He is a sexually exhausted man.
Poor Melissa.
Poor Melissa. But, talk about exhausted. This date opens with, rather than Jason going to pick Molly up the way he did with Jillian, Molly is, like, meeting him on this weird little, like, I guess some kind of an outlook, which is all gravel, because it's on this, like, rocky cliff.
And it's at an incline, too.
It's an incline, well, a decline from where Molly was coming. She has to run so goddamn far, and, like, it is raining, it is on gravel. I don't think she even had a fucking umbrella, and Jason just watches him run to her for so long with his stupid robotic fucking smile.
Yeah, he's just standing there, and it's just so long of Molly running.
It takes so fucking long. It's the goddamn Rocky training montage. You'd think she's gonna get there and start jumping up and down with her hands over her head. But she gets there, and she says something about, like, she hasn't seen Jason in forever, which sort of begs the question, how long has it been since the hometown date?
Yeah, I wonder if they give them time to be with their families. I wonder if that's what it is.
You know, I hope that's what it is. Because, like, being completely cut off from the world when you are, you know, in the bachelor mansion, and then, I mean, any time that you are sort of being a part of the bachelor, you can't have contact with fucking anybody.
Right.
You don't get to know anything that is happening outside of the bachelor. And so I'd like to think that they don't just give them that, like, you know, 1 or 2 days at home, and then it's like, all right, let's skip off to New Zealand.
Yeah, because both Molly and Melissa, I think, react in a way it's like, oh, I haven't seen you. Yeah.
Maybe that's actually a sign that, like, well, no, because I mean, like, Jillian's hometown was first, wasn't it? Wasn't she the first hometown?
Yeah, Jillian's hometown was first.
So then it's at least been, like, 5 or 6 days since she's last seen him, if you want to include, like, travel time and whatever.
Well,
like that.
I mean, they all had to come together for the rose ceremony. I forgot about the rose
Ooh,
ceremony.
that's true. The timeline is so fucking messy. This is the leap of faith date, so of course they're going bungee jumping.
Mm-hmm.
And the only comment I really have written on that is Jason does a big yell. But I do also want to mention the fact that so Jason is wearing this brown long sleeve tee, which, you know what? Fine. But when he is standing next to Molly, who is wearing this, like, deep burgundy or something, it's like this reddish brown kind of thing, it looks so terrible. And it's almost, it's the same sort of thing that happened with Jillian, because actually they were both wearing plaid for Jillian's date, and it was like the colors were just so barely not the same.
Yeah, they were both just so close to matching.
So close, but not quite. Oh, it's terrible. Gave me a headache. It's like a really bad, I described it as this earlier, it's a Magic Eye poster that's designed to give you a fucking headache.
Yeah.
But then Molly does her best to recreate the fantastic bit that was done by
Jillian's mom.
And she says something about, I brought some questions for you, or something, and she pulls out this, like, a fairly long piece of paper, like, unfolds it and all this shit.
Right, it's folded up. It's not a scroll that she does.
So it's already weaker. Sorry, Molly, you tried. But she pulls it out, and we know for sure that she has 20 questions on this sheet.
Mm-hmm.
But of the few that we get to see Jason answer, like, it's all pretty normal stuff.
She says that they're just a list of quirky little questions.
Yeah, because that's the stuff she, like, wants to know and doesn't think she's had the opportunity to learn.
Which is fair. I think that's nice to learn the little things about who you might be marrying.
It just, this also begs a question, and it is, what the fuck were you talking about before that you didn't have time to ask him, like, what food would he eat for the rest of his life if he could only eat one food? Like, you haven't asked him his favorite food yet? And that's for me, that would be a conversation starter very early on. But then again, I am not particularly charismatic. Anyway, the two questions that we had to take notes on, well, Kinsey had to take notes on, and I now have in front of me, is she said, like, if your house was on fire, what is the first thing, and you could only grab one thing to take with you, or something along these lines.
Yeah.
And he said it was his, like, fucking original style or whatever Air Jordans. So Jason's gonna grab his fucking Jords before he gets his fucking son.
Yeah, most people with a family would say, a photo album or pictures.
My box of important documents, even. But no, it's the fucking sneaks for Jason.
Sorry, Ty.
Eat shit, Ty, and get ready to eat it again. Because when Molly asks him what his favorite, like, time period in his life has been, he says now. So eat shit, Ty, when you were born. Infant Ty, you can fuck right off. Because Jason's been dating 30 women, and he's narrowed it down to 3. And he's about to fit all 3 of them.
Yeah, Ty has had one slice of Minnie's shit pie and is now ready to eat another one.
Indeed. But then we have, a dinner date, which is always a part of these fantasy suite dates, of course.
Which, we didn't talk about Jillian's because it was so short, and they didn't.
Yeah, it was so short. They got, like, a minute and a half of sitting there at dinner with this, like, casual conversation, ultimately. And then it was like, all right, let's go bone. We did get more of a conversation between Jason and Molly, which is sad because it was a terrible conversation.
Y'all, this was the worst conversation. They sat down there like, hey, are you good? Yeah, I'm good. How are you? Well, I'm happy. And
are you happy?
Are you happy? I'm good. Cool.
It was as if you made 2 robots that only knew banal small talk and had no idea how to have, like, higher intelligence based conversation, and then faced them with each other and just let it go. And what's even worse, they're gonna fucking... The editors played 8.5 fucking seconds of ominous Here Comes Mothra music. This scene got so little music, and we, along with Molly and Jason, had to sit in this wretched silence.
It was wretched.
This never-ending silence. It sent me straight to hell. But, you know, the awkward conversation could only last so long because Jason just went ahead and cut things off when he ran out of banal things to say and went ahead and kissed her.
There was a little bit of an actual serious conversation, because that's where Molly says that she's had her walls up and she has not been vulnerable to him and all of this, and he does not respond to what she says.
He really doesn't.
He just kisses her.
He had to take Jillian, like, on this whole special excursion a couple weeks ago to ask, like, hey, I don't feel like you've been vulnerable with me.
Mm-hmm.
And here's this woman saying, hey, listen, I don't feel like I've been very vulnerable with you. And he's like, cool. Smooch.
Well, and I think he did the same thing with Jillian in the, like, little bit that we got of their conversation.
No, yeah. There was definitely a, like, I don't have anything to say anymore. Let me just lay one on you.
Right, and if after Jillian had said something serious.
Yeah, and he's like, let me break you off a piece of this smooch.
Yeah.
But then, so Molly had said earlier when she was asking all these questions, she was like, I'll save the last question for later. And so then she pulls out her little sheet again and says, so question 20 is, she essentially wrote her own version of the Chris Harrison, like, do you guys want to go fuck card, which is like, I hope you're having a wonderful time here in name foreign location. And should you choose to forego your individual rooms and spend the night with each other, here's the key to the fantasy suite or whatever.
Yeah.
And the note I've taken is question 20 on Molly's list was, hey, ready to go rock out with your cock out? So that's pretty much what it was.
Yeah, she has taken the initiative here to ask Jason to share a room tonight.
Yeah, which, I mean, props. Like, if nothing else, that definitely makes you stand out. So good on her for that.
She said, I had a taste in the tent and I'm ready for more.
Yeah. We didn't get enough in that tent. But then we get another teaser, and it's about Melissa's date, which is, of course, the last date of the episode. And pretty much all we really get from it is that Jason is never going to stop bringing up Melissa's parents not wanting to meet him.
It's still a big deal. It's made clear in the teaser that this is gonna be an issue again.
Yeah. And I mean, I understand that especially in this context where, like, she's the odd one out because that's the only family he didn't get to meet. So I understand why it's weird or unsettling for him, but, like, ultimately I feel like his concern should be less of, like, well, I just don't know if I can commit to you if I haven't met your family, and it should be, I care about you, and I'm concerned that your family wasn't, like, willing to be there for you, willing to sacrifice either their, desire to not be in the limelight or their desire to not drive at most, like, 2 fucking hours and maybe 15 minutes. Like, it's pretty shitty, and I wish he would have been more concerned about that than concerned about, well, hey, I met everybody else's parents, so what the fuck?
Yeah, it was made so much Melissa's problem. There was a problem with Melissa that was the reason why Jason didn't get to meet her parents.
And for them to talk about, like, for Jason to say, it made me question whether or not she's serious about this. Dog, she was there. Yeah. She put something together for you in her hometown that was, like, nobody else this season had to do that. She's the one who had to scramble and figure out what can I do.
I mean, you can tell the whole time she was super struggling with the fact that her parents didn't get to meet Jason.
Yes. And the conversation, like, I believe we did talk about it. They have that little conversation by the pond or the lake or whatever it is.
Yeah, their little picnic.
And she has a really hard time saying, like, you are going to be meeting some of my best friends today. And unfortunately not my family because, yada, 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 yada. So I think it's just really shitty of him to be so hyper-focused on, like, well, I didn't get to meet these 2 people, which I'm not marrying them, but and I
Right.
understand like wanting to know about someone's home life, but you aren't falling in love, or at least it's not about falling in love with her parents or her brother. It's how do you feel about this person?
Mm-hmm.
Get that figured out and squared away, and base your decision on that. Because ideally, at least, you ain't gonna be living with the family. You ain't gonna be having children with the family.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna be a little more focused on Melissa.
Right. And, I like Melissa, and she did not deserve any of this.
She absolutely didn't deserve any of this. The only thing Melissa's ever done wrong is wear the wretched BumpIt she wore on this date.
Yeah, Melissa loves her BumpIts, and they're all bad.
Well, this one's the worst because it's like, it's very tall, but very narrow. So it's like, it's not even the width of her full forehead, and it looks like this weird little pompadour thing. Too. It's the very front. The hair gets pulled down very flat behind it.
It looks like She-Ra's in the new reboot.
I couldn't speak on that for sure. What I can speak on is if it had been like an inch taller and tilted slightly forward, it would be a goddamn anime pompadour. Like, no fucking question.
This is Melissa's audition for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. Have not watched the show. I do know there's a dramatic pompadour involved. Anyway, Melissa's date. The first thing we have to talk about is Jason's goddamn shirt. Because here's the thing. It's one of those where it's kind of supposed to look like, it's like a short sleeve shirt with a long sleeve underneath it, but it's made to look like a black polo with a gray long sleeve tee underneath. But it's very clearly, it almost just looks like they sewed them together end to end. It's not that there is the end of a sleeve over the beginning of another. It is one sleeve.
What really tips it off is that on the sleeves, where they connect, there is some sort of design.
There's this weird, shitty design.
Yeah, and it's like half of it is on the short sleeve, half of it is on the long sleeve, and there's a space.
Yes, there's a gap between them. There's a fucking gap between them. Where do you shop, Jason Mesnick?
Hot Topic.
It's gotta be. Fucking polo ass, Ed Hardy polo ass bullshit. But then their date is they're going out on a boat, and they talk about it's Winston Churchill's boat, which, obviously I don't know. It would be very difficult to fact check this, but, is it Winston Churchill's boat, though?
I don't know.
Is it? Because I feel like that's something the sort of, essentially the tour guide, whoever was taking them out on the boat, I feel like that's his pitch. And the producers sort of knew it was bullshit because they had to do all sorts of, contracting and paperwork with him. And then Jason is, so psyched about it being Winston Churchill's boat that they're like, yeah, it's the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
But, again, we have a moment where, Jason, and I can't remember, oh, no, I remember what it is. Well, no, that comes later. But when they're out on the boat, again, they're having kind of a serious conversation, and Jason doesn't know how to respond to something, so he just kisses her.
Yeah.
Which, Jesus Christ, Jason, come on. But, they get done with their little boat ride, which I did bring up while we were watching the episode. The reason they have all these boat ride dates is that there's no escape. You are, whatever awkward situation or conversation you find yourself in, you are stuck there.
I want to see someone just jump off a boat and swim away.
It's fucking like Colton hopping that fence and Seti just jumps off the fucking boat.
Runs into Ogo Pogo down there.
Yeah, I was going to say, Ogo Pogo's helping him. He's like, come on, you gotta get out of there.
Jump on my back.
Yeah, get on my foot. But they get done with their boat ride, and they go to this weird little, I assume it was a part of some sort of spa, but I don't know. Mm-hmm. They go into this really, sort of rustically designed room, and there's this funky little hot tub and, this huge window that looks out over the lake. But the note I have taken here is that Melissa does call it a hot pool, which is interesting.
Yeah, which I wonder if it was something different, because I feel like Jason also said hot pool. They said hot pool
Did he?
multiple times.
Huh.
It might have been just Melissa. I don't know if that's something separate or what.
Is
like
that just what they call it in New Zealand?
Maybe
or
it's
something?
like a hot springs.
I was gonna say, is it a hot springs situation?
This is the hot spring anime episode.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why everybody was wearing the towels so loosely secured around their private bits. But the weird thing about this moment, and I guess this is the first, like, well, other than the intense pressure that they're putting on Melissa because of her situation, this is the first really big example of, like, the influence the editors have had. So when they sit down in this pool, they have glasses of champagne. And as they're having another difficult conversation about the situation with Melissa's parents and just sort of her family, when we are seeing Melissa talk about it, she has a full glass of champagne, and both hers and Jason's glass are very bubbly. And then it'll cut to a reaction shot.
Well, no,
wait,
it's
no,
the
I've
other
got
way
it backwards.
around.
Yes.
Yeah,
when we're seeing her talk about it, she's got a pretty low glass of champagne.
Mm-hmm.
Both their glasses are just flat as hell. But then when we're seeing her actually, like, fuck, I've got them backwards again. Which one is the reaction shot? Which one is super bubbly?
So when they show her from the back to show Jason's reactions to what she's saying, her glass is very full and very bubbly.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever reactions they were getting from Jason when she was having this conversation apparently were not good enough. Which doesn't make any sense because his reactions that they show us,
they're always the
nothing.
fucking same. He's got like two facial expressions and they're barely different.
Mm-hmm.
So was there that big of a difference between his reactions? I doubt it.
They probably just, since it was two different cameras, they didn't want to find the exact moments, so they just pulled random shots.
Yeah, they were like, hey, this works. We don't want to sync up this footage.
Yeah. And there's another moment like that later that we'll talk about.
Yeah, that's even worse.
Mm-hmm.
So...
then they have a dinner.
Yes,
date
another dinner date.
Where they do talk more about the parent thing.
Of course.
They talked about it in the hot pool. They're talking about it at dinner now. Where Melissa says, she's close to her parents. And she's really close to her brother. Like, super close to her brother. Mm-hmm. She says they try to talk every day.
Yeah, they talk about 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm. And her parents maybe 2 or 3 times a week. She talks to them. And Jason calls her the black sheep.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from, but I do know that he said something about, so you're kind of like the black sheep of the family. And she goes, oh, I'm the black sheep. Like, she puts so much stank on it.
Yeah, and then Melissa asks the question that we've been asking this whole time is this really a super big deal?
Yeah. And he literally says that's a really hard question to answer directly, or that's a question I can't answer directly. And yeah, you could, dog. Yeah. Like, if nothing else, just explain. You can say, yeah, it is, because blah, 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 blah. Saying it's such a difficult question to answer directly is a fucking excuse.
Yeah, I just felt so bad for her. Because even at one point he was like, because I've met everyone else's families. And she goes, yep.
Yeah.
Just the saddest little yep.
So sad. It's like this whole date. And I mean, of course, throughout this whole process, you're going to know, like, man, I'm being, held up against these other women and directly compared and all this. But, like, this whole date, he's basically been reminding her, like, I am comparing you to the other women.
Yeah.
That sucks.
But, I mean, they do get over it, because he does say, which I kind of liked how he phrased this, was, I've met their families, but I've met your friends, and I haven't met their friends, kind of, which he says later on in that date conversation. And then he does give her the little envelope saying, you ready to have sex now?
Well, now, hold on. I believe it's before that she is sort of opening up about her feelings for him.
That's after. That's after they go to the little cabin.
Oh, yeah! Place. Yeah. Okay. After she's been given the should you choose to forego your individual rooms. When they get to the weird little cabin thingy, which it is a different one, thank God. But they get there, and as they're like sitting down and having this conversation, she opens up, and I mean, I believe she actually said earlier on in a talking head, like, she needs to tell Jason she loves him this date. And when she says it, I mean, I'll go ahead and read the note I have, because I take my notes with the specific intention of them being funny, as if it's supposed to distract me, and I find that enjoyable. So, the note I've taken is, she's the only one who actually says she loves him on the day. Smooch. He fucking interrupts her to kiss her.
Yeah, she says, I have fallen in love with you, and she keeps talking about her feelings, and he interrupts her just to kiss, because I don't know, he's not going to say it back. Well, he can't say it back.
Yeah, they're not allowed to say it back,
yeah.
Which is understandable, because I mean, I suppose you can say it back, but, like, you're putting yourself in such a terrible situation.
One of the bachelors, Ben Higgins, I believe, said, I love you to 2 different women.
Mm-hmm. And that's a terrible position to put both of those women in.
Yeah, I think it was JoJo. She got real upset because he said, I love you to her.
And then it did not end up with her. Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's be quick about this here.
Okay. Well,
he's a piece of shit and interrupts him as she's trying to really confess her feelings.
One thing I just realized, we had mentioned earlier about there was no kind of after or morning after scene. They don't talk about sex. They don't talk about sex this episode.
That's true. Well, I think, is it... I can't remember who it was. Somebody said something about getting to spend the night with Jason or something like that. Sleep next
Molly
to
said
Jason.
Sleep next to Jason.
There it is.
And it's gotta be... I'm thinking about it now. I think it has to be because this aired in 2009 and censorship
and they
was
couldn't...
different.
Yes, they couldn't directly address the thing.
Now, I mean, Peter Weber's season and Colton's season, like, both... they talk about it. So Hannah B's season, they talk about it a ton when they get to the fantasy suite days. Is they are talking about sex. They're being very open about what they're doing in the fantasy suites. Whereas here, it was...
They got to be a little more tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
But now we get another teaser, which is... Well, our outro, the sign-off, is entirely based on the bullshit of, like, every next episode is the most dramatic episode. But in this one, like, Chris Harrison says, Jason has to make his toughest decision yet.
Which is exactly what he said last episode.
Well, yes, but here's the thing, because he says yet, like, he can say that as much as he fucking wants.
Yeah.
Because it's not... That is not as definitive as ever. He's just saying, like, man, this shit gets harder as you go along. And yeah, I bet it fucking does, Chris Harrison.
It's just the word... They never change the wording, and I feel like they're just reusing audio clips.
They have to be, but when they have something like that where it's technically allowed to say it multiple times, like, I can forgive that. What I can't forgive is that Chris Harrison says that this episode ends with the most dramatic departure of the season. No, it does not. Spoiler alert, no, it does not.
Yeah, they have
Stephanie's
forgotten about Stephanie so quickly.
Indeed. Never forget the Alamo. Never forget the Stephanie's exit. But then, it comes back, and Chris Harrison is talking to him about sort of how he feels about everybody. And ends up saying, like, each of the women left you, a video message, a heartfelt message to just tell you how they're really feeling.
Which I have never seen.
I was going to say.
It was weird, yeah.
That it caught me off guard.
Yeah, these 3 women, they each had a little, this is... Remember me? Remember me and all the things that we shared? I just love they each had, like, a little different...
Yeah, this is the only note we have on it, so I'm gonna let you take it because I didn't notice it whatsoever.
So Jillian, when she starts her message with "Hey babe," Molly starts hers with "Hey Jay," And Melissa starts hers with, "Hey, you." I just found it very funny. I don't know why.
It's intriguing. I mean, I do like that they're all different. But I actually, I did notice when the videos were playing, I mean, I certainly didn't acknowledge, I suppose, the fact that they all said hello differently, but twice, at least this episode, we hear Jillian call Jason babe, and I don't know if we've heard anybody else say it.
I don't think we've heard anyone else say it, but Jillian has said it several episodes.
So, yeah, she's defo said it multiple times. But what she has still not said, Molly does say in her little video. I can't remember if she says she is falling in love with him, or she has fallen in love with him.
She said something along the lines of, I told you on our date that I was falling in love with you. Now I can say that I am madly in love with you.
Okay. The only person now who has not said I love you is Jillian.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, again, just a couple weeks ago, we had to have a conversation with her about how she hasn't been very vulnerable with him. And she does have her reasons to not be vulnerable, just with the past she's had of, having to always be this strong person and everything.
Yeah.
Feeling like the vulnerability, I guess, of saying I love you is tough. Mm-hmm. Like, different strokes for different folks. But it's not a great position to be in going into this rose ceremony.
Yeah, and I just find it strange that Molly didn't tell Jason in person.
It is odd. It does feel like hey, don't send me home. I love you.
Yeah.
I love you so much.
This is like her last ditch effort, and hey, keep me for a little bit.
Yep.
I think Molly was also the only one who mentioned Ty in hers. Like, I can't wait to meet Ty.
Interesting. If so, then she definitely, she came in with a strategy.
Yeah, for sure.
She took advantage of this opportunity, like, oh, so many people on Survivor. But, yeah, we go into the rose ceremony next, and, interestingly, Jillian is the only person who doesn't look nervous.
Yeah.
Actually, I do want to say also, one thing that, I've noticed is, in that teaser where they talk about the most dramatic departure of the season, we see the car driving away from Jason, presumably with the person who gets sent home in it.
Yeah.
And then we're seeing, 3 different cars drop off each of the women. And Melissa is the one that gets out of that car, which, the first time we watched this, I definitely thought, oh, okay, so that means she's the one going home. Mm-hmm. Which does not end up being the case. And I do think that the producers very intentionally juked us there.
Yeah.
But, yes, going into this, Jillian's the only one who doesn't look nervous. Mm-hmm. She's got a smile.
Yeah, while Melissa she's, sucking her lips in.
Yeah.
Fidgeting a little. Molly has just, it looks like she's looking into the sun.
Yeah, but it's such a grimace.
She's grimacing so hard. She's grimacing harder than Jason's smile.
Yeah.
And even when Jason walks out to start the rose ceremony, Melissa and Molly still both look so scared.
I mean, they compose themselves a little bit, but they are still nowhere near the level that Jillian's on, because, Jillian's fucking beaming. She's got this smile,
Yeah, she is so confident.
Yeah.
But sorry, Jillian, Melissa and Molly do get the roses.
Yep. Whoa, go hop in Melissa's car, Jillian! And that's exactly what she does.
Yeah, she does not get the rose, and she is upset. She angry.
Looks quite upset. And it's not, like we said, it's not the most dramatic departure, but there is sort of, if nothing else, this conversation between them as she's about to leave is interesting. Just because the editors did some weird shit, and Jillian talked about some weird shit.
Yeah. So, Jason's reason for sending Jillian home is that Jillian is looking for a best friend. And Jillian's like, yeah. You
should be too.
Yeah, I think the words were, when you're 90 and you're sitting together, you're gonna want to be with your best friend.
Yeah.
And Jason's like, but you want best friends and more. It's like, yeah, dog, that's a given.
Mm-hmm. And it really sucks for her to have made it to the final 3 and then have him say, like, I just feel like we aren't beyond friends, more or less. Which, I mean, who knows? Maybe if she had said something about, even just how deeply she cared for him, if she couldn't say, I am falling in love with you, or I am in love with you. Like, if she couldn't say those things, I don't believe she really made that much of a comment about, like, I want you to know how much I care about you.
Yeah, I don't think she did.
So I guess I can understand where he's coming from there about their connection not seeming the most romantic, because maybe she isn't really vulnerable enough to comment on that.
She's the fun one.
Yeah, she's just
fun,
so fun.
And she's strong.
And she loves hot dogs.
Yeah, remember, this is her.
This is the hot dog lady. I told Kinsey if she had asked me how I would sum her up, how I would describe her. Well, no, if she had specifically said, try to describe me in 3 words. Like, all right, hot dog lady. That's all I need. But yeah, Jason talks about, I need more than a best friend. But then, like, the weird thing is, well, I think I know what you're laughing about. I'm not sure, but I do want to. First, we have to comment on the editors.
Oh, okay.
Like, these 2 things happen at the same time. But, like, as Jillian is talking about this whack-ass shit, the editors were again fucking with the reaction shots from Jason. Because there's a specific shot where, like, it's supposed to be an over-the-shoulder from behind Jillian.
Right.
But she turns her head at just the right time that you can very clearly see she is not saying the words you are hearing.
Absolutely not. We're hearing one thing, and she turns her head, and we're seeing something else.
Yeah, like, I can't read lips, but I can defo tell when she is not saying a word that requires an ooh sound, which is how her lips were.
Yeah, but what was she talking about?
Well, here's the fun thing. She was talking about a dream she had, and she said, like, 2 nights ago, I think, which means she had this dream while Jason was fucking somebody else.
No.
Sorry, Jillian. But she said she was having this dream about playing with Ty and all this stuff, and then, like, Ty was trying on this pair of my high-heeled shoes, and I wanted to show you, so I ran down to get you, and then Ty and I just curled up together and went to sleep, or whatever bullshit. She has not seen Ty, to our knowledge. So she had a dream about playing with the abstract idea, the concept of Ty.
She was talking about one of Jason's terrible ties.
Yeah, no, that's it. Just, no, she's seeing a fucking, like, voodoo doll made up of every terrible tie Jason has worn this season. God, that's a big-ass fucking voodoo doll, man.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I will just say real quick, the terrible tie he wore this, he was so close to wearing a decent suit. He had this nice, like, light, I would go ahead and say it's a bit of a charcoal gray, because charcoal gray, it's a bit lighter than charcoal, but it's similar. This really nice suit, he's got a white t-shirt underneath. Thank you! I say t-shirt, a white shirt underneath, which he has not pulled that in a hot minute.
Nope.
It has been weird designs and colors. But then he has this tie that's like black, and it has this large, either gray or silvery design on it that really looks like something you'd see on like a doily, I would say. And it is such a color that in this sunlight, it almost just morphs into the suit. Like it somehow becomes a gray that is not quite the same and not quite different enough from the suit. So it's basically how he and Molly and Jillian looked on their dates with their not quite matching outfits. But now we get a teaser for next week. What all's in this teaser there, Kinsey?
All right, so we find out that later this season, we have the most dramatic finale in Bachelor history.
Which Kinda. Maybe. Probably.
I mean, it's fairly dramatic.
It's pretty dramatic.
I haven't seen any.
It's certainly more
finales
dramatic
from
than
before.
Jillian's departure.
Oh, absolutely. But then we also find out what next week's episode is. And it's my favorite episode of any season.
The Women Tell All.
The Women Tell All. So what the Women Tell All is that they will bring all of the contestants that
Well,
went
now in
home.
fairness, in this teaser it said the most memorable women from the season. And I believe when we watched it
Oh,
last
yeah.
time, we noticed it is not everyone who competed.
Yeah. Well, that happens a lot. Like, there will be a couple people who choose not to go to the Women or the Men Tell All.
Which is weird, because there's plenty of folks who went home the first night who still, for some reason,
Right.
are there.
It's like, who are you?
Nobody knows who you are, dog.
Those are the ones that are trying to get on Bachelor in Paradise.
Yeah, they're trying to capitalize on the opportunity. And I mean, hey, more power to them. Like, chase that paper.
Yeah. What do they call it in Bachelor in Paradise? Is it the People Tell All?
I guess it's just the tell-all.
The Tell All.
The Beachers tell all.
The Islanders Tell All.
No, the beachgoers tell all. Don't you give them the credit of being Islanders.
The Alcoholics Tell All.
Hey, there's something.
Okay, but the Women Tell All,
Mhm.
it's a bunch of the women, like he said, the most memorable women of the season come back and they kind of open up about their experience.
Yeah.
And their opinions on certain things that happened during the events of the show. But they'll also bring Jason on,
Yes.
where Chris Harrison will, ask him some stuff. And the question we get teased is Chris asks Jason, what happened inside the tent?
Yeah. What happened in that tent?
Yeah.
He says.
Yeah, between Jason and Molly early on. Then we get teased about some dumb stuff that no one cares about.
Yeah, I mean, they have a bunch of stuff about, like, this weird sort of spin-off show that's about to happen, and they do a bunch of interviews, like, that are... Actually, some of the people do actually show up, but there's also just a bunch of videos about, like, past contestants who have remarkably stayed married long enough to be invited.
Yeah, they always have this in a tell-all or after the final rose where they'll bring in past contestants to talk about what they're doing now.
And it's ultimately just boring. Yeah, it's
boring.
just boring.
There was one, I think it was Bachelor in Paradise, in the middle of the tell-all. There are a ton of children. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes. Fuck. The, like, Bachelor daycare just rode in. So, we get reminded of sort of the role of some of the women that were a part of this season. And mostly that's... Well, I mean, the biggest one is just Megan, who got kind of the villain edit.
And it really, lets us know, it confirms that she got the villain edit, because what we see from her is her...
It's a talking head we haven't seen before, I don't think.
We'd seen it before, because it was the episode where Shannon was getting very upset about the conflicts happening within the house, within the other women. And it was Megan saying, think about the show that you're on and where you are. Think about the opportunity you've got and not whine about, I don't like this. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Her talking about Shannon getting just legitimately upset. So upset she had to go throw up in the bathroom.
Yeah. And then we also get just a little moment where Erica was on some bullshit.
Oh,
She's the woman who got so crazy drunk and had a whole thing with, I believe, Jillian. Where it was like, who was it then?
It was Erica versus Megan.
Oh, yeah! Where it was like, I did not talk shit about you. And it's like, dog, I just listened to you talk shit about me. Then we also get Natalie versus Nikki.
Yeah, so if you remember, Natalie was the one, she was the blonde woman with the orange skin.
Who got just like, they put $1 million necklace on her and were like, oh, you might get to keep it or whatever bullshit. And then he was like, you're going home. And the poor producer had to be like, jewelry? And she's like, oh, yeah!
Yeah, and Nikki was the one, she was they gave her the kind of the mature woman role where she thought that Natalie was too immature and all this, and what we
Yeah.
see in this teaser, our reminder we get of her is her saying if Natalie comes home after the one-on-one date, then Jason is not the kind of man that Nikki would want to be with.
Yeah. I mean, the other stuff we get, just to breeze through it since we're already going a little bit long, we do see Ty's interactions with both Molly and Melissa.
Right, because after the women tell all, the remaining two women will go and meet Jason's family.
Yes, it's Jason's hometown. Well, I mean, it's not in his hometown, but that's essentially the function of it.
Right.
Ty does not like Molly.
No.
Ty does not fuck with Molly.
Yeah, Jason's like, you want to say hi to Molly? And
he's
he
like,
goes, mm-mm.
Mm-hmm.
But he does love Melissa.
He's a fan of Melissa. We also get to see like a quick little moment where I think it was Melissa was talking to Jason's brothers, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Jason's brothers are fucking clones,
They're
and they look
clones.
nothing like Jason.
They look exactly like each other, nothing like Jason, and they are not twins.
They are not twins. It is disturbing. We also get a big teaser about like, and I mean this has been teased earlier in the season, but we get a teaser about Deanna showing up and is saying that she made a mistake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she says, you haven't proposed yet. I still have a chance.
I still have a chance, yeah. And kind of the biggest teaser we get here is a little moment, like a snippet of the very, very beginning of After the Final Rose, where Chris Harrison is talking about this has been such an emotional and traumatic sort of series of events that out of respect for all the parties involved, we will not have a live studio audience.
Yeah. He's like, what's going to happen tonight is so emotional.
Yeah. Which, damn, I can't wait to cover that. Anyway.
God.
We get a wonderful after credits scene in Molly's fantasy suite date. They ended up at one point in a bubble bath together, which, like, dog, you're sitting in a bathroom with a woman sitting on your lap in a bubble bath, and there's cameramen, like, no more than 4 feet away from you. And what happens here is, like, they're leaning in for a kiss, and then something happens, whatever it fucking is. They talk about it's draining, and, like, it's captioned as a draining sound. But there's just the biggest fart noise.
It sounds so much like a fart.
It sounds so much like a fart. Like bubbles and all included, if I'm not mistaken. And then it's like, they kind of like, they're leaning in to kiss, and the sound happens, and they stop. And they kind of wait a second, and there's no sound, and they lean in to kiss again, and it starts up again. And they lean back, and it stops. And then finally, like, Jason just gives up on trying to do that. Like, at one point he has to look over at the cameraman who's, like, adjusting. I have to assume the cameraman broke. Like, I have to assume the cameraman laughed. Cameraman moves, gets even fucking closer. And then they're going for this kiss again. And the sound gets going up again. And Molly actually says, I think it's draining. And then, bam, cut. That's the end of the episode. So good. Just to, that's the end of the Fantasy Suites episode. Yay! And as we said earlier, as Kinsey said before, next week is the Women Tell All. Our plan for that, since there's not going to be any sort of narrative development or, there could be some influence from the editors, but there's not going to be a very heavy hand in that department. Our plan is to keep an eye out for any of the former contestants sort of talking about, like, things that happened in the house that we were not privy to.
Right. Or extra insight into certain events that we had talked about.
Yes, and especially that, because there are times in the, like, tell-alls where someone will be talking about an event or a conflict or whatever that we did see, but they are describing it very differently from what we were shown.
Mhm.
So that we will be especially looking for. And so, I mean, ultimately, like, next week's just a fun one. That's sort of the, the long and short of it. Next week's going to be the fun one.
Yeah.
But, yeah, shit. Welcome to the end of another episode of Will You Accept This Prose? I am your author, Max Churchwell.
I'm your analyzer, Kinsey Brinson.
And join us next time for the most dramatic episode in Will You Accept This Prose history.
One and only prayer is that someday you'll care. My hopes, my dreams come true. My one and only you. No one will ever know how much I love you so. My prayers, my hopes, and my schemes, you